I wasn't even that into him. Ethan. That was his name. He wasn't bad-looking, tall, dark-haired, clean-cut, but something about his profile seemed too polished. His bio was generic. Just a guy looking for good vibes and great company. I had matched with him on Tinder a few days ago. He messaged me first, kept the conversation going, and even when I ignored him for a couple of days, he sent another message. I know a little bar with the best cocktails in the city. Drinks on me? I wasn't the kind of girl to meet up with guys from dating apps so soon. But Julia, my best friend, had been teasing me about how I never gave anyone a chance. After a couple of glasses of wine one night, I responded, "Sure, why not?" I should have trusted my gut. Ethan picked a bar I had never heard of, the Silver Lantern. When I looked it up, it barely had any reviews. The few it did have were all weirdly vague. Good atmosphere, nice drinks, nothing specific. No details about the menu, no photos, no location tags, just empty. That should have been my first red flag. The night of the date, I got ready quickly, throwing on a black dress and light makeup. Before heading out, I shared my location with Julia and sent her a message. "If I get kidnapped, tell my mom I went out looking cute." She texted back, "LOL, you'll be fine. Just don't go home with him." That, at least, was the plan. When I arrived at the Silver Lantern, I noticed right away that it was in a weird part of town. Quiet, barely any streetlights and no other businesses nearby. The building looked old and abandoned, like something from a different era. A dim neon sign flickered above the entrance, barely lighting up the cracked sidewalk. Inside, the air was stale, carrying a faint chemical smell like cleaning products that never quite faded. The bar was nearly empty. The only people inside were a tired-looking bartender, an older couple sitting in a shadowy corner, and Ethan. He was already waiting for me, sitting at the bar, grinning like we were old friends. "Wow," he said, standing up and pulling me into a hug before I could react. "You're even prettier in person." I forced a smile. "Thanks. This place is interesting." "You'll love it," he said. "They make the best drinks here." Something about his enthusiasm felt forced, too eager. I slid onto the bar stool, trying to shake off the weird vibe. Before I could even look at the menu, Ethan waved over the bartender. "2 house specials," he said. The bartender hesitated. Then his eyes flicked to me before he nodded and walked away. I felt a prickle of unease. "You already know what I like?" Ethan chuckled. "Trust me, it's amazing." That's when I noticed his phone sitting face up on the bar. For a split second, I saw an open text thread. The last message read, "She's here." My stomach twisted. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting. Maybe he was just texting a friend, but my instincts screamed at me that something was wrong. The bartender returned with 2 drinks. They were filled with a deep reddish-orange liquid that shimmered under the dim light. Almost too pretty. I lifted mine, sniffing it. "What's in this?" Ethan smirked. "Secret recipe. Just try it." I hesitated. He was watching me too closely. His eyes weren't on my face. They were locked onto the glass in my hand. My pulse quickened. Instead of drinking, I pretended to adjust my purse and, as casually as possible, tipped the glass slightly when he wasn't looking. A few drops spilled onto a napkin. I stared. The liquid reacted with the fabric, turning a faint, unnatural shade of blue. A drug test video I'd seen online flashed in my mind. Some drugs turn blue when they touch certain materials. My mouth went dry. I glanced up at Ethan. He hadn't noticed. I set the drink down and forced a smile. "Actually, I'm not feeling great. Maybe I should just stick to water." His expression flickered, just for a second. Then the smile was back. "Oh, come on, just 1 sip. I promise you'll love it." My pulse pounded. "I'll pass," I said, trying to keep my voice light. The bartender was watching us now. His expression was unreadable, but there was something knowing in his eyes. I needed to leave. I pushed my chair back. "I just remembered I left something in my car," I lied, reaching for my purse. "Be right back." As I stood, Ethan grabbed my wrist, hard. His fingers dug into my skin. His smile didn't fade, but his grip was too tight, too insistent. "Come on," he said, voice low and firm. "Just stay a little longer." The bartender coughed loudly. Let her go. Ethan's jaw clenched. For a second, I thought he wouldn't let go. His grip tightened, just enough to send a spike of fear up my spine before he finally released me. I didn't wait. I walked toward the door as calmly as I could, but the second I was outside, I ran. I ran to my car, fumbling with my keys, heart slamming against my ribs. I locked the doors and sped away without looking back. When I got home, my hands were still shaking. I texted Julia everything. She sent back one message: call the police. I did, but by the time they went to check out the Silver Lantern, it was closed, no signs of activity, and when they looked up the business records, the bar had been shut down for over a year. To this day, I have no idea what Ethan was planning. I blocked him on everything, but sometimes I still get random friend requests from new accounts with no profile pictures, and every time I wonder, was it him or someone else, watching, waiting, ready to try again? I wasn't desperate for a date. I wasn't even looking for anything serious. I just wanted to have some fun, meet someone new, maybe share a drink or two and call it a night. That's how I matched with Jason. His pictures showed a handsome guy, dark blonde hair, green eyes, sharp jawline. The kind of guy you'd expect to see modeling overpriced cologne. He had a few candid shots too. One of him at the beach, another holding a dog, a final one sitting in a cozy coffee shop with a book in his hands. He seemed normal. His messages were confident but not overbearing. He asked about my favorite books, movies, what kind of music I liked. He made jokes that actually made me laugh, not just the forced LOL I usually sent to be polite. We talked for 3 days before he asked to meet up. I know a great little spot, he texted. A quiet place where we can talk. You'll love it. It was a small bar near the edge of the city, one I had never been to before. When I looked it up, it had decent reviews. Nothing weird. Still, something felt off. I had this tiny voice in the back of my head telling me to be careful. But I ignored it. He was just a guy. A good-looking one at that. So I agreed. I should have listened to my gut. The night of the date, I got ready, put on my usual light makeup, and threw on a dress that wasn't too fancy but still made me feel confident. As a safety precaution, I shared my location with my friend Ashley and texted her, meeting my Tinder date at the Hollow Bar. If I disappear, avenge me. She replied with a laughing emoji and, text me when you get home, dummy. I promised I would. The Hollow Bar was dimly lit with warm amber lights casting soft glows over the booths. It wasn't crowded, but there were enough people inside that I felt safe. I scanned the room for Jason, and then I saw him. Or at least, I saw someone who was supposed to be him. My stomach dropped. The man sitting at the bar looked nothing like his pictures. Oh, he had the same general features, light hair, greenish eyes, but he was off. His hair was thinning, his face had deep-set wrinkles that the pictures never showed, and he was at least 10 years older than he claimed to be. I froze. A chill ran down my spine. He spotted me, grinned, and waved me over. I should have left. I should have turned around and walked right out that door. But my brain went into autopilot. I didn't want to seem rude. So I walked over. Emma, he said. His voice was smooth, confident, too rehearsed. Even prettier in person. My skin crawled. I forced a smile. Are you Jason? That's me. I slid onto the stool next to him. My mind was racing. He wasn't who he said he was. That much was obvious. But the bigger question was, why did he lie? I needed an exit plan. Before I could say anything, he waved the bartender over and ordered 2 drinks. I tried to place an order, but he cut me off. I already got you something special. He smirked. Trust me, you'll love it. My pulse quickened. I had no intention of drinking anything he gave me. The bartender placed the drinks in front of us. Jason lifted his glass, clinking it against mine. Cheers, he said. I forced another fake smile, but didn't drink. I needed to think. I needed an excuse to leave. You don't talk much, do you? Jason chuckled, swirling his drink. You were a lot chattier over text. Yeah, I said, trying to keep my voice even. It's just I wasn't expecting you to look so different. For the first time, his expression flickered. "Oh," he said. Then he laughed. "I get it. My pictures are a little outdated. But hey, I still clean up nice, right?" I gave him a tight-lipped smile. My heart was pounding. I reached for my phone under the table, texting Ashley as quickly as I could. "He's not who he said he was. Something's off. Can you call me?" Jason suddenly leaned forward, eyes sharp. "No phones," he said, grabbing my wrist before I could pull away. A sick feeling churned in my gut. I told him I just need to check on my friend. He squeezed. Not hard enough to hurt, but enough to send a very clear message. "I said no phones," that he repeated. I yanked my arm back. A slow smile crept onto his face, but his eyes were cold. "Relax," he said. "We're just talking." I forced myself to laugh like I wasn't seconds away from bolting. "Sorry," I said, "just checking in with my friend." Jason tilted his head. "Your friend, huh?" There was something in his tone, something knowing. My stomach twisted. He took a slow sip of his drink. "You know," he mused, "I've been on a lot of dates with girls like you." I stiffened. "Girls who are too polite to leave," he continued, staring straight into my eyes, even when they know they should. My breath hitched. I stood up and told him I should go. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist again. This time he squeezed harder. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Jason," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Let me go." His grip didn't loosen. "You haven't even touched your drink." Every instinct screamed at me to run. The bartender glanced over, watching us. I met his eyes, silently pleading for help. Jason noticed. His grip tightened once more before. Finally, he let go. "Go on then," he said, smirking. "Run along." I grabbed my purse and walked out as quickly as I could without looking like I was fleeing. The moment I stepped outside, I sprinted to my car. My hands were shaking as I fumbled with the keys. I locked the doors and peeled out of the parking lot. When I got home, Ashley had already texted me a dozen times. I called her. My voice was shaking as I told her everything. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Emma, I think he's done this before." A cold dread settled over me. "What do you mean?" She told me. She looked up his pictures. "Reverse image search. They belong to some random model. His name's not Jason." My blood ran cold. I checked Tinder, my hands trembling. His profile was gone, deleted, like he had never existed. To this day, I don't know who he really was. I don't know what would have happened if I had drunk that drink. All I know is that sometimes I get random messages from numbers I don't recognize. Asking, "Is this Emma?" I also get friend requests on my Instagram. But I've learned my lesson. I don't think I will ever talk to a stranger again, especially online. I wasn't the type to invite guys over on the first date, but with Caleb, I made an exception. He had the kind of smile that made you feel safe, like you'd known him forever. His Tinder profile was simple, just a few pictures of him hiking, hanging out with friends, and one of him holding a golden retriever. A guy with a dog? That had to mean he was normal, right? We'd been talking for about 2 weeks, and he never pressured me into anything. He seemed patient, sweet, and genuinely interested in me. So when he asked if I wanted to just chill at my place instead of going out, I hesitated for a second, but said yes. I lived alone in a small apartment just outside of town. I had a security system. My neighbor was a cop, and I figured if anything felt off, I could just kick him out. Caleb arrived around 9 p.m. He was even better looking in person. Tall, fit, dark hair, clean cut. He smelled good too, like expensive cologne and fresh laundry. The night started off fine. We ordered takeout, had some wine, and put on a random movie in the background. He was charming, making me laugh, but something about him was off. It was little things at first. When I mentioned my sister, he said, "Oh yeah, I know." I blinked. "You know?" He quickly covered. "I mean, I remember you mentioning her in our texts." But I hadn't. I shook it off. Maybe I had and just forgot. Then, when I excused myself to grab my phone from my bedroom, I came back to find him standing in my kitchen, staring at my fridge. The door was slightly open. I frowned. "You looking for something?" He turned too quickly and smiled. "Just curious what you had in there." It was weird, but not alarming. But as the night went on, the weirdness piled up. He never took out his phone. Not once. Most people check their phone at least a few times, even on a date, but his stayed in his pocket the whole time. Then, at one point, he got up to use the bathroom. A few minutes later, I heard my bedroom door creak open. My stomach tightened. I quietly got up and peeked down the hall. Caleb was in my room. I watched as he turned his head, looking around, his hands behind his back like he was being careful not to touch anything. I stepped into view. What are you doing?" He didn't flinch, just smiled. "I was looking for the bathroom." I pointed at the door, right next to him. "It's literally right there." He chuckled like it was funny. "My bad." That was it. I decided I wanted him to leave, but I didn't want to make it obvious that I was creeped out. I grabbed my phone and sent a quick text to my neighbor, Officer Daniels. "Can you come over? My date is acting weird." No response. I took a deep breath and turned back to Caleb. "I actually forgot my friend is stopping by soon." He tilted his head. "That's weird. You told me earlier your friend was out of town." My stomach dropped. I had mentioned that in passing during our texts, but I didn't expect him to remember, or to bring it up like that. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, but she decided to come back early." Caleb just stared at me. The silence stretched too long. Then he smiled. "No worries. I should probably get going anyway." Relief washed over me. "Yeah, it's getting late." I walked him to the door, trying to stay casual. He stepped outside, turned to face me and said, "Tonight was fun." I nodded. "Yeah." Then as he walked away, he said one last thing. "You live alone, right?" The words sent a chill through my entire body. I forced a smile and shut the door quickly, locking it. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was reading into things too much. Then my phone buzzed. It was Officer Daniels. "I just got your text. Everything okay?" I let out a breath about to reply, and then my security system beeped. A door had just been opened. I froze. I had locked the door. Caleb had left. The only other door was the one leading to my balcony. I turned around slowly and my stomach dropped. My balcony door was slightly open, and my bedroom light was on. I knew for a fact I had turned it off. I backed away, my breath coming out in short gasps. Then, my closet door creaked open. I bolted. I ran straight out of my apartment, down the hall, and banged on Officer Daniels' door. He answered immediately, gun in hand. By the time he got to my apartment, Caleb was gone, but he hadn't left through the front door. They found my phone on my nightstand, unlocked. He had gone through my messages, my photos, everything. And on my pillow was a note. "I'll see you soon." I moved out a week later, but every now and then I still check my balcony door, because deep down, I know the truth. He hadn't just found me on Tinder. He had already been watching me. I wasn't the type to invite guys over on the first date, but Alex seemed different. He had this easygoing charm, a relaxed way of talking that made me feel comfortable. We had been texting for a week, and he hadn't once made me feel weird or pressured. He was cute too. Tall, dark curly hair, a sharp jawline. His pictures were mostly candid, goofy ones, some with his dog, others at the beach or hiking. "You're seriously cool as hell," he had texted me the night before. "We should hang out soon." I hesitated. He lived about 40 minutes away and I didn't really feel like going out. But when I mentioned that, he offered to come to me. "No pressure," he said. "I can just stop by for a bit, chill, watch a movie or something." It sounded innocent enough. I figured we'd just talk, maybe drink a little. I wasn't expecting anything more than that. So I said yes. I should have said no. The night he came over, I had an uneasy feeling in my stomach. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I brushed it off as first date nerves. When he texted me that he was outside, I took a deep breath and opened the door. The moment I saw him, my stomach twisted. He looked different. His eyes were glazed over, red-rimmed and unfocused. His posture was slouched, and he had this lazy, almost predatory smirk on his face. "Hey," he drawled, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. A strong smell clung to him. Weed, alcohol, something else I couldn't quite place. I hesitated before closing the door. "Are you okay?" He laughed, running a hand through his messy curls. Yeah. Just had a little pre-game, you know?" I didn't know, and I suddenly wished I had never let him in. We sat on the couch, and within minutes, it became painfully obvious that he was more than just a little high. He kept shifting, laughing at things that weren't funny, his eyes darting around the room like he couldn't focus. "You're so pretty," he slurred, reaching out to touch my leg. I scooted away. "Thanks." He moved closer. "Like, seriously, damn, you smell good." He leaned in, inhaling deeply near my neck. I jerked back. "Okay, chill," he grinned. "What? Am I moving too fast?" I forced a laugh. "A little." He sighed dramatically, flopping back onto the couch. "You're one of those good girls, huh?" Something in his tone made my skin crawl. I tried to steer the conversation back to something normal, but he wasn't interested. "Look," he said after a few minutes, his voice lower, "I didn't drive all the way here just to sit and talk." My stomach clenched. "Well, that's kind of what I agreed to," I said lightly, trying to keep things calm. His jaw tensed. "Come on, we're both adults. You're really gonna act like you don't want to have a little fun?" I forced another laugh. "Alex, I don't even know you like that." His smile faded. For the first time since he arrived, I saw something in his eyes that made my blood turn cold. Annoyance, frustration. "You know," he said, rubbing his temples, "I could have gone to a party tonight. I had options." "Then maybe you should have gone," I said before I could stop myself. His head snapped toward me. For a few seconds, he just stared. Then he chuckled. "Damn, you're really playing hard to get, huh?" He reached out again, this time grabbing my wrist. I yanked away, standing up. "I think you should go." His expression darkened. "Are you serious?" "Yeah," I said, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. "I don't think this is working out." He stared at me, his jaw clenched. Then, to my horror, he leaned back and spread his arms over the couch, grinning. "Nah," he said, "I think I'll stay for a bit." Ice shot through my veins. I grabbed my phone, opening it to text my friend. Alex laughed. "What, you gonna call the cops on me?" His voice was mocking, like this was some kind of joke to him. I didn't answer. I just took a step toward the door. That's when he stood up. He moved fast, closing the space between us in seconds. "You're acting crazy," he muttered, gripping my arm. His fingers dug into my skin. "Relax, I was just messing around." "Let go of me," I said, my voice shaking. His grip tightened. "You invited me here," he hissed, "and now you're kicking me out? That's rude as hell." Panic surged through me. I was alone in my apartment with a guy who was bigger, stronger, and clearly not in his right mind. I needed to get out. I swallowed hard, forcing my face to stay neutral. "Okay," I said slowly. "Let's just chill, all right?" He eyed me suspiciously. I forced a smile. "Let me just grab us some drinks." He hesitated, then finally let go of my arm. I walked toward the kitchen, heart hammering. The moment I was out of his sight, I grabbed my keys and slipped out the back door. I ran. I didn't stop running until I was outside my neighbor's house, banging on the door. When they opened it, I gasped, "Call the cops." By the time the police arrived, Alex was gone. My front door was wide open, and when I checked my phone later, there was a message from him. A single text. "You shouldn't have done that."